Hi there. I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for coming.
You know, uh, Last season was an interesting one for your character.
Yes.
You're typically, particularly professionally, very confident, and you had a little bit of a crisis of confidence towards the end of the season.
Yes. Well, exactly. I like to. I like it that you see it that way. A lot of people were a lot more damning of Julia's behavior, um, but I think that yeah, it's something that happens. People get confused. People don't know what they want. People need to sometimes need to make mistakes in order to figure out what's important to them. And I think that the writers are great at writing us very realistically in that way.
Well, you mentioned the reaction some people have to it. It strikes me that's a challenge for doing a character that's been around for a long time.
Hmm.
Fans have a particular attitude about this the way the character should be, and if it doesn't fit that, they tend to take it out on you, where it's not always your choice.
No, exactly. Yeah, a lot of people had a lot of very strong reactions to that. They were, like, we're never going to watch this show again if she leaves him. If she, just like very dramatic, and you realize just how many people are watching and that are really addicted um, and maybe a little too emotionally attached in some ways because they got very upset.
As an actor, how do you deal with that aspect of it? You playing character over a lot of seasons of doing things that allow you to step away from that and not to get too immersed in just this character.
Yeah, no, well, I was just saying to someone else who said, I'm very lucky that outside of costuming, I don't really look a lot like Julia. So a lot of the time, nobody recognizes me, and I take a lot of well, not pride in that, but I'm very grateful for that, and I have a big other life outside of this show, and also other projects, and so I feel like I take that sort of feedback from them with a grain of salt. I go, well, that's just the way it is, and people are always going to get upset, and you can't do anything about that, so I'm gentle with them. I try to be. I'm just.
Well, you talk a little bit about outside projects and stuff, and that really is a challenge when you're doing a character, is keeping it fresh. I guess as an actress, how do you do that to not just feel like, okay, it's another season, all right, we're gonna just go in through this and approaching it in a way of, hey, this is gonna be something different, and I'm gonna do a little different spin on it.
For me, it all comes down to your attitude in life, and I can honestly say, after this much time, because my attitude changed at different times during the season. Around 4 or 5, I was ready to do something else, and then it just sort of worked out that I came back for different reasons. I went off and did another series for a time, and then came back. When we first started the show, I was on 3 series at the same time. So over time, it just sort of one thing led to another, and just for whatever reason, and different reasons every year, you keep coming back. But now I just see I'm extremely grateful. Like it's a trap to think, everything has to be constantly different. And in that, within the character, there are differences all the time. Within the character, there are new emotions. There are different things to play. This is what we love as actors, is the challenge to play things. And those challenges don't go away just because it's the same character. I find, because she's so utterly different from me, I find it refreshing every time I play her. And I watch her and I go, wow, she's cool. It just doesn't feel like me. And so I never really get sick of Julia.
Well, I was going back and reading old interviews of yours, looking at old interviews, and looking at some stuff from like 10 years ago. And there was a lot of discussions. You were concerned about, I'm an actress, and it's not financially the most stable profession, and you're worried about that. And I'm wondering if you feel a little bit more comfortable. I mean, you've had a really long career. You've done a lot of different stuff, and if you feel a little bit more or less stressed about that aspect of your life.
Oh, totally. I mean, there's a lot to be said for solid amounts of work in your life, and I know a lot of actors, a lot of incredibly talented people who've had to give it up over time because it was just far too challenging, but also I've known a lot of people who haven't worked as solidly, and that messes with you as well. I mean, I think that this year has been an eye-opener for a lot of people in lots of different careers to understand what the stress of unsettled work is. It's just very, and that's the reality for actors your whole life. You never know when you're working again, and that takes its toll. I'm very grateful for the fact that I've had really solid work. Having said that, at the end of every year, we never know if we're coming back again. But having solid work means that, you are a lot more comfortable when it comes to your financial life, for instance, and therefore in a better position to not take jobs you don't really want to take, that you would have taken out of necessity. So it puts you in a great place as an actor to be able to create your own work and to develop things, which is what I'm doing these days, develop things for the future, and work on things in your own way and with your own guidelines, as opposed to just having to take what's necessary, because there's never enough work.
Now, when you go into a new season, do you have any idea of what's going on with your character, what's going on with the show, or do you want to know?
I usually, I will put some feelers out before we start shooting to say, so what's happening this year, and sometimes I don't want to tell you. The writers are incredibly, excuse me, secretive, which I've never understood. It's like, well, I'm going to have to tell you it. Why would you not tell us? And they're like, we're just going to, because they don't want us to overreact. They don't want us to, they want to do what they want to do because I trust them. They're very good at what they've been doing, and they've been doing a great job. So I let them. And half the time they won't tell us what's going on because they're worried that we'll react badly.
Well, really, all you want to know is that you're surviving the season, really.
Yeah, I'm coming back. No, I'm pretty sure of that these days, which is nice. But for instance, at the end of this season, there's a bit of a shocker, which I can't tell you about. But it is definitely going to drastically change the dynamic between Julia and William going forward. So,
well, geez, that's quite a teaser. So thank you for that. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and good luck with the rest of the season. I look forward to seeing it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thanks. For talking to me. Bye.